issue at the studio. As you guys know, we're a live program, and we will be going to phone calls in approximately. One of the co-founding members of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care. And today I'm here with only two of my co-hosts. First of all, Noel Leader.
Peace.
Second of all, Big Mike.
Namaste.
All right. And as you guys know, again, in about 30 minutes, we'll be going to our live phone calls. And as customary, we have a historical piece. Today, November 12th, 1909, the NAACP was formed. And Mike, I know you wanted to discuss that.
Yeah, just want to identify the longest, oldest civil rights organization in America is the NAACP. They were founded in response to a massacre that happened in Springfield, Illinois. They met up at Niagara, and ergo, you know, the so-called Niagara movement, which translated into the NAACP, but it was about lynching. There were mass lynchings going on in Illinois, Springfield, and this was a response to it. They were whites, primarily Jews, who formed it, and they needed some well-known black names, so they recruited Du Bois and many others to initially start the formation of the NAACP, and they basically ran it for the first 40, 50 years until it was surrendered over to blacks, at least started getting the executive positions, but it's always been controlled by whites. But we have to at least admit that they do have a long history, and there were some serious battles that the NAACP was engaged in. And if you were a member of the NAACP at a certain time in our history, it was dangerous, and you was on, you know, slippery. You was on a slippery slope just to be a member at one time, depending on where you live.
And also, on February 17th, 1942, another great member of our community was born, Huey P. Newton.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Huey P. Newton, his name is solidified in our history. He was the co-founding member of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense in California. He was ahead of his time in terms of talking about self-defense for our community, and not only just defending yourself, but to take the time to organize a group that would monitor policing in the black community, and therefore was able to monitor the way police made arrests, the way police did enforcement in the black community. So very timely, him using principles from Malcolm and so many others. So we should never forget the contributions of Huey P. Newton. He died too soon, but a great man in his own right.
And a lot of people, you know, when they talk about other countries, talk about political prisoners, you know, the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense was an organization, as Fred Hampton said, it was a political organization because everything's politics. But they got prosecuted because of their political view, which was to defend our community against police brutality. Now, somehow, you know, a lot of individuals had problems with that. But today, unfortunately, individuals are still incarcerated as a result of this country's illegal monitoring of that particular organization. And when I see heads of state in this country go to foreign countries, talk about, you know, releasing political prisoners, freedom of speech, et cetera, we sometimes forget that members of our community and a number of organizations, including the NAACP, was arrested, prosecuted, and some incarcerated for the sole purpose of defending the rights and the human rights and the civil rights of African Americans. So members of the Black Panther Party should always be, should never be forgotten, as well as the sacrifice a lot of them paid with their lives. So big ups to Huey P. Newton and the Black Panther Party.
And when you talk about the persecution that goes on and has gone on, and it continues to go on for members of our community to stand up for the rights and and fight against the injustices that occur in our community. All right, thank you for that, Mike. Also, one of the topics we wanted to talk about was that in Chicago, police officer Robert Relmo, who shot Betty Jones and Quintino LaGrace, I may have pronounced that wrong and I apologize, is not going to do any jail time or be convicted for any crime or even charged, well, not charged, but even tried for any crime. Mike?
No, you was right. He's not going to be charged with anything.
Right.
This was the case, as you know, in 2015, when we first mentioned this case. This was a case of a young man who allegedly had a bat in his hand, and the police officer was in the came into the door while he was in the house with his grandmother, and allegedly he claims that he took a swing at the police officer Relmo, and the police officer alleges that after he swung at him once and he was within 3 or 4 feet of him, that he refused orders that the police officer claims he repeatedly told him to drop the bat, and he didn't drop the bat. And then he started firing. He fired 8 rounds, killing LaGria. But the thing about it is that LaGria was shot in the back, and that's unexplainable. You can't justify you claiming that somebody was threatening to swing the bat again at you, and that somehow all of the rounds ended up in his back and his buttocks, and he was only grazed in the chest. But the Cook County coroner claims that the shot that killed him was a chest shot, but we've seen that before with Omar Edwards, so we know that police officers lie, and they can get coroners to lie with them. So this is obviously a city that's been heavy-handed and have killed a lot of blacks over the years, going way back to the Fred Hamptons and Mark Clarks, and even further than that, you know, which is why they formed the Black Panther Party in the first place. But we've seen situations where you get coroners. You know, Elliot Gross here in New York was a great cover for the police department, and certainly in Cook County they have the same thing where you can claim a person was killed from a certain shot, but that, you know, shot does not exist. So unfortunately, this police officer is not going to be charged. He killed a 19-year-old man as well as his grandmother right there in plain view, and the police characterized the shooting of his grandmother as an accident. Hey, he made a mistake. No charges. So you get a black cop to shoot a white grandmother and see if that police officer will be charged. So it's just ridiculous.
Noel, this scenario we've seen countless amount of times where unarmed African Americans, male and female, have been shot by the police, and there's been no charges, there's been no arrest, there's been no prosecution, there's been no conviction. Your thoughts on this particular case?
Well, this particular shooting, just as many other unfortunate shootings, many of which have been captured on video as of late, is just another indication that, you know, when it comes to the killing of unarmed African Americans, when you look at the criteria when police officers can use deadly physical force legally, that's when they're in imminent danger, when they're in fear of imminent danger or serious physical injury. Many of these incidences don't meet that criteria. All the officer says that he feared for his safety, and he's deemed to be justified. The unfortunate thing about where we at is if we didn't get any justice, if we didn't get a strong response from the federal government, because all these local governments, you know, because of their relationship with the district attorneys and the police officers, if we didn't get any assistance under Barack Obama, you can only imagine, you know, the lack of assistance that we don't get under this present president. And I think our community, something that hasn't been mentioned enough in our community, is the FBI had determined that alternate right Nazi groups, white supremacist groups, have given their members orders to join police departments around the country. And we're to be, shame on us for not taking what the Federal Bureau of Investigations have stated. This is not community cop, this is not no leader. They have stated that they picked up communications where nationwide members of these racist white supremacist group organizations have ordered their members, advised their members and supporters to join police departments all throughout the country. And I know for a fact that a lot of this is a manifestation of that order, that a lot of these individuals within these law enforcement agencies, not only the police now, we're talking about district attorneys, we're talking about judges, we're talking about the entire criminal justice institution have been infiltrated for generations by white supremacists. And, it's unfortunately that in this case, there's once again not going to be any justice.
Right. And, and even when you talk about the infiltration of these organizations, they still follow the ideology of the organizations as well. When you talk about the response of how the criminal justice system deals with, works with, and allows itself to police our community. So, that is a major concern, and our response should be one of defiance when we talk about how, and defense, when we talk about how we're being dealt with by a system that continuously fails us.
And definitely the monitoring of these police officers, individual officers that engage in some of these horrific murders. Right. And I don't think our community does a good enough job in monitoring as a community. We can't rely on the police department to monitor its own staff. We can't rely on the Department of Justice, the District Attorney's Office, the Internal Affairs Bureau. We can't rely on any of them. We have to monitor these police officers that roam around in our communities with so much power and authority, and then, the right to take a life.
Right. And when I talk about defying defense, I'm talking about intelligently and legally. Those are the things that we need to do. All right. Thank you, Noel, Mike. Also, Donald Trump has been in office for less than 100 days, and I have seen via media, through whether it's television, through the papers, there has not been, and I could be wrong, but I don't think I am, one day where there wasn't a controversy that affected his presidency. There has not been one. This has not been a smooth transition. We've been dealing with one incident after another concerning his time as president. And we're not just talking about a national issue. We're talking about global issues that exist during his time. Noel, his first 100 days, which we have not even reached yet. And there's a multitude of things we can discuss specifically, but your overall view of his first 100 days.
Well, it's to be clear to any and everyone who has their eyes open that this is an incompetent president. This is something that we knew, that the nation should have known him coming in. His fame to glory is that he was a TV personality. He had a TV program which was successful. But when you look at the first 100 days, it's kind of surprising that there's been so many major missteps in such a short period of time. The last one being, his national secretary advisor, Michael Flynn, was picked up last month in conversation with the diplomat of Russia. This is when President Barack Obama at the time had initiated sanctions against the Russian government for their invasion of a sovereign country. And while this was going on, this individual was having conversations, who also had a business relationship with the government of Russia. He was having conversations. Now, when asked prior to him becoming the national security advisor, did he have conversations with the Russian diplomat regarding, the sanctions, et cetera, et cetera? He said no. I mean, and it's now, it's only as a result of the FBI monitoring the Russian diplomat that they pick up on this conversation, because we would have never found out about it. I think it's a reflection on Donald Trump's choices. He made some severely poor choices in almost every federal agency that he has picked. And this is only a manifestation. Here, this man has only been in office less than 3 weeks, and he has to resign. This is a reflection on Donald Trump and those that he's chosen to surround himself with. So it's corruption at the highest order. I think there should be an independent investigation of the actual conversation, because that's what I want to know about, because it was picked up over wiretap, so I know they know exactly what was talked about, and whether or not President Donald Trump ordered him to or advised him to have this conversation, whether or not Donald Trump knew what they talked about, and he was complicit with that conversation. And definitely Donald Trump knew about this incident because the Department of Justice had reached out to him and informed him that his national security advisor might be able to be bribed by the Russian government based on this conversation. So it's going to be very interesting. But to answer your question, it is clear that this is an incompetent administration that have so many errors, so many missteps in such a short period of time, from his disrespecting the Mexican president, him canceling that trip, from his initiating anti-Muslim ban, et cetera, et cetera. So this is going to be good. America's going to get what it deserves.
Now, Mike, Michael Flynn made a statement. He said, listen, initially he said he didn't have the conversation. Then he said he doesn't recall having the conversation. Donald Trump says that not because of what he did, what Michael Flynn did, but because he can't trust him. The mistrust that now exists between the presidency, meaning the office of the presidency, and Michael Flynn is why he asked him to resign, and he accepted his resignation.
Well, the thing is, this is just building a false narrative. His problem is not he was lying to Pence, who he was in constant contact with, the vice president, Pence. It's not so much that or any conversation here with Donald Trump. He lied to the American people. Now, the reason why the FBI was monitoring things is because this was during the time where President Obama had just expelled 35 Russian spies out of America. Consequently, at that same time, General Flynn was having conversations with Russia. And the thing was, these things are documented. They have the transcript. Now, the reason why they would never reveal the transcript to show you the full context of these conversations around the sanctions will be lifted and a whole lot of other agreements that Donald Trump wanted to convey to Russia is because he would be in danger of the Espionage Act if they were to reveal it. That's why I already know, without having a crystal ball, they're not going to reveal the exact contents of that conversation, because to do that, now he would be in danger of being arrested for the Espionage Act. So they're not going to reveal it. The FBI has had this information for a month. That's right, a month before he was even sworn in. They've had it since before the transition even started, and the Trump administration has ignored all of this. Consequently, this is why they waited all of this time. But now Trump is going to be in trouble. So it's not about whether Trump was lied to or confused or misinformation or anything. It's the fact that General Flynn can be arrested for divulging and having these types of high-level conversations with the foreign government without the full auspices of the president, which was President Obama at that time, not President-elect Donald Trump. President Obama was the president at the time he was having these conversations.
Now, Noel, when we talk about the first 100 days, how President Trump has conducted himself along with his newly picked cabinet, which he's still going through now, and we talk about so many snafus that have occurred during these transitions. If you juxtapose the first 100 days less,
just 25 days.
Right, less.
25 days.
It's hard to believe it's only 25.
And we talk about President Obama during his initial 25 or 100 days, whichever one we wants to juxtapose it with, and the response of the community and the nation and the issues that are occurring with Donald Trump. How do you see the difference, and how do you see the response by the people who are opposed to both administrations, which for me, one of them is a logical one, because I think that our nation is having major national concerns with Donald Trump, as opposed to just a disdain for President Obama.
Well, I mean, it's kind of an unfair comparison, because here you had a president who inherited a national economic collapse that hadn't been seen probably since the Depression, Barack Obama. There was a major recession afloat. You had the housing crisis, where home foreclosures to the tune of millions was occurring all around the country. You had the Wall Street, the stock market, almost collapsing. It was in the 6,000s. You know, some of the lowest. They said if it went any lower, then there might have been a depression, rushed us into a depression. Many individuals are losing their savings, their retirement funds, et cetera, et cetera. You had major banks, you had major auto companies about to file, go into default and file financial, bankruptcy. So that's Barack Obama. And in a short period of time, he had to put together a team that handled that. And while this was going on, we had members of the Republican Party meeting saying that we don't care what he does, we're going to vote against it. So from day one, there was a hostile environment created by members of the Republican Party against President Obama. They wanted him to fail. They didn't care if the country suffered as a result. They just did not want him to be successful. And he was successful. Look at Donald Trump. Financially, the country is headed in the right direction. Home foreclosure crisis has been long ended. Banks have been saved, paid back the money that they borrowed with interest. The automotive industry have been saved, rescued, paid back the money. The Wall Street is at phenomenal records, over 20,000 as opposed to 6,000 when he took over. This is what Donald Trump inherited. So in such a short period of time, so him to make so many critical errors when he doesn't have that kind of pressure, those kind of immediate concerns, is an indication that this man is not qualified to be president. And those same individuals who were very critical of Barack Obama are still making excuses for President Donald Trump. It's a exercising hypocrisy to the highest order, that these individuals' concern is not with the American government or what's best for the American people. They have specific personal gains, probably connected to their financial donors. That's the only concern that they have, and it's hypocritical. And it's clear when you look at the way that they're treating Donald Trump with kid gloves. He's signing numerous executive orders that they were so critical against Barack Obama signing executive orders. It's clear that this is it's outrageous and it's comical. And once again, America, you're going to get what you deserve for voting this fool into office.
Mike?
Well, I'd say that certainly there's a place where you see party loyalty over patriotism with respect to what's better for America, and then you have to consider that this is a president that does not respect the rule of law. He seems to not govern in a way that's consistent with the Constitution. Now, he seems to be taking a page out of Andrew Jackson's book when Andrew Jackson, of course, signed the Indian Removal Act to remove Native Americans from their ancestral homes. The Supreme Court told him that was unconstitutional. And he went on to say, okay, you've made your ruling, it's unconstitutional. Now let me see you enforce it. So he knew that the Supreme Court couldn't enforce it, so he went ahead and removed them from North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, all of those places, and moved them all the way to Oklahoma with orders by the Army that if they did not comply, that they would be shot. And so those who complied, some of them died along the way, as is commonly known, the Trail of Tears. And then there were those who resisted, and they were systematically eliminated by the Army. So this seems to be the way that Donald Trump chooses to govern. So if there's a juxtaposition, the former administration complied with, at least visibly, with what the rule of law is, and certainly this new administration has little respect for the law and will totally disregard the law anytime it feels convenient. As I said, party over patriotism.
And, was amusing to piggyback over what Michael said. There was commented from one of the representatives, spokesperson of Donald Trump, that say that the Donald Trump authority will not be challenged. In other words, they're claiming that he has a supreme authority that shouldn't be questioned or challenged because he is the president of the United States and he did win the presidency. But yet they challenge any and everything Barack Obama did when he was president. So you see utter hypocrisy. And then, Donald Trump's, a lot of time, his way to deflect, when you have such significant and important things occurring, he wants to talk about, his polls. He wants to talk about the crowds that are attending, his events. He wants to talk about some alleged millions of individuals who voted illegally, and make up all of these stories as a diversion. But it's just the epitome of hypocrisy. And as Michael stated, these individuals have more commitment to their political careers as opposed to being real patriots, as they pretend to be. And it's becoming very, very clear. If this is what we get in the first 25 days, I would like to see what the first 100 days are actually going to look like.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Michael, we were talking prior to starting the show about the history of Senate Rule 19. Explain to our viewing audience what Senate Rule 19 is.
Very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this was as a result of Elizabeth Warren was trying to read a letter by Coretta Scott King that she wrote in 1986 relative to Sessions, who was trying to be a federal judge at that time. And so it was a very critical, scathing letter of sorts with respect to the character and the political leanings of Sessions. Now, just want to go backtrack to the history of that rule, because that rule did not come out of the cosmos. What happened was two incidents happened. In 1856, Preston Brooks beat Senator Charles Sumner. Right there, he caned him, literally almost caned him to death. Senator Sumner almost died as a result of the beating he took, and that was because Preston Brooks' cousin, which was Senator Andrew Pickens Butler, the senator of South Carolina, was excoriated on the floor when Sumner called him the Don Quixote of slavery. In other words, his vows, his passion, his love is for the institution of slavery. And Preston Brooks took that as a slight. And since he was a congressman, not a senator, he took his cane and wore him out right there at the Senate and almost killed him. And the other incident, which was a little more recent, was in 1902. Now, that was in 56, mind you, 1856, prior to the Civil War. In 1902, you had Benjamin Tillman, Senator Benjamin Tillman, the same one who I read those letters about. He had words with the senator from South Carolina, John Loring, and turned around and punched him in his face and started beating him. And so as a result of that, they implemented something so that a sitting senator will not make a disparaging comments about another sitting senator. In other words, it's a decorum thing. So that's what Rule 19 comes from. So they did that on that. The fight happened on the 22nd, and in 6 days, by the 28th, they had already initiated Rule 19, which forbids a sitting senator from lambasting in any way or any negative disparaging remarks about another senator. So we need to take that into consideration. And if someone asks me, I'll describe Tillman, who was a dying-of-war white supremacist. He's the one that wrote a critical letter and made some critical comments about two things. As a matter of fact, I'll read it real quick. What he wrote is still sane to this day. What he wrote is that we of the South have never recognized the right of the Negro to govern white men, and we never will. We have never believed him to be equal to the white man, and we will not submit to his gratifying his lust on our wives and daughters without lynching him. I would to God that every last one of them was in Africa and that none of them had ever been brought to our shores. That's Senator Tillman, who became governor. That's his attitude towards blacks, and of course he's the one who said, that when Booker T visited the White House, he said, now we're going to have to kill, and these are his words, we're going to have to kill 1,000 niggas to put them back in their place. So that's the attitude, and that's why, as a result of those two incidents, they made Rule 19.
And fast forward to the objection to her reading the letter that was written by Coretta Scott. I think it was appropriate because it is an indication of the character of an individual that was being considered for a very significant post. The Department of Justice. It's clear that Sessions does not only have doesn't he not have the past that makes him an appropriate choice, but also presently. I mean, this is a man who said that he doesn't have, and we said it repeatedly on this program, he said he never had problems with the Ku Klux Klan until he found out that they smoke marijuana. You know, which is you know, for him to make those kind of statements in regards to the most horrific, diabolical, I haven't used that word in a while, terrorist group in this country, the Klan, for him to make those kind of statements is a reflection that this man is not warrant that particular office. So I think that it was appropriate for Coretta Scott King's references as it relates to this individual to be read because he objected to the civil rights movement, the civil rights workers who was just filing for the right for African Americans to vote in the South, and Sessions at the time was against that. Did you refer to the Ku Klux Klan as a terrorist group? Yes, that's right. Later for ISIS. ISIS doesn't have anything on the Klan. I challenge anyone to put the history of ISIS against the history of the Ku Klux Klan in this country. You know, this is a preeminent terrorist group. You know, all of them are in ISIS. I'm giving no kudos to ISIS. I'm not doing that. But I'm just saying that for a man to make these kind of comments, saying that he had no problem with the Ku Klux Klan prior to find out that they smoke marijuana, this is a reflection of this man being not qualified. But this is what your president, Donald Trump, this is the individual that he chose to be, the head of the Department of Justice. So, you know, once again, America, you're going to get what you deserve. We just have to organize, as a community to protect ourselves against these vultures.
Now, does it seem like a pattern with the people that Donald Trump are choosing for his cabinet, somewhat of the same ilk?
Yes, I mean, you go down the line. You know, his choice for the education. She's against private education. She destroyed the educational system in Detroit.
Public education.
She destroyed public education. She's for the privatization of education, but yet she's going to head a federal agency on education. You know, if you look at Sessions, you know, if you look at this individual who just got kicked from his spot, Michael Flynn, you know, all down the line. Mad Dog, somebody named Mad Dog who said he enjoyed killing people. You know, so this is really, you know, and individuals who had all these commentaries against President Obama, you know, and who are silent now and patting Donald Trump on the back. You know, it's just the epitome of hypocrisy. But we just have to stay ever vigilant.
All right. Well, we got a lot of callers on the line. First caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Quick question or comment?
Yes, good evening. This is Uncle Sonny calling from Auburn, New York.
Could you guys just turn it up a little bit in the back because we can't hear them? I'm sorry, caller.
How y'all doing?
All right. Go ahead, caller.
Cool. You spoke about the killings of the son and the grandma, and you said there would be no black cop that lived to do that. Well, you know, what gets me, I want to reflect on, in 2005, I think it was, there was a black cops patrolling on and around Ocean Howard Beach, and he was having a problem with a teenager, and the white community began to attack him. And instead of him, he didn't even pull a weapon to fire a warning sign, but he did grab his walkie-talkie to let his boss know he's being attacked. That blew my mind. And, you know, brother, it's sad because there is no politician from Barack Obama on down. There was no politician like that of Adam Clayton Powell Sr. or Charles Barron. There is no great law enforcement, judges and lawyers like that of the great Honorable Judge Bruce Wright. There's no great cops out there like your three gentlemen. There are some small in number, though, very small in number. And I'm afraid that our armed forces, they're very small in number because if we were to rise up peacefully against white America, they would be afraid to step back and let us move forward because, you know, the control of a person's mind is very dangerous. Also, you spoke about Donald Trump and Long Island. There was a white man. He turned his flag upside down. It was on the news, and he was against Donald Trump policies. So I just want to throw that out there.
Okay.
But again, you know, I fear that, you know, unless we can come up, you know, stop being afraid of being controlled by white America, we can survive whatever Donald Trump does.
All right. So thank you for your call. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Quick question or comment?
Yeah, good evening, fellas. I was trying to get through last week, but we ran out of time. I just wanted to make a comment on...
Where you calling from, caller?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm calling from Jamaica, Queens.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
The gentleman that was picked up for raping that young lady in Howard Beach, I know that kid. I know him personally. He was not a violent kid. You know, the kid, I think he's being framed, man. He was not a violent kid. You know, they say he was being bullied and all this stuff. And how come he didn't act violent towards those people? He was being bullied, too.
All right.
You know?
Go ahead.
Yeah, he's actually a former student of mine.
Okay.
We have no record of him being violent at all. So if y'all could do anything, man, try to help the family looking to try and get this guy a lawyer or something, man.
All right. Well, thank you for your call, and we'll give out our phone number to 100 Blacks, and if you have any contact with the family, you can have them give us a call and reach out to us. We will definitely do all that we can, and we are definitely going to keep our eye on that particular case. But thank you, caller.
Man.
Thank you, caller. All right. Next caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Quick question
Brother
or comment?
Ray Brooklyn, how you doing, Noel? How you doing, Big Mike, Julian? Listen, let me ask you. If this gentleman was supposed to be so much of an idiot, and everybody knows that the masses of people do not elect the president, the ruling class does, what do you think the agenda was of the ruling class to actually put him in office, number one? Question number two is, can any of y'all give me a scenario on this thing with this Nick basketball player Charles Oakley and the easiest way to rent a $40 million slave and put somebody in his place like Spreewell? And can you run down this seat up in Harlem where these individuals are running and your criteria on that?
Are you talking about the city council seat? That's the special election for city council. Noel?
Well, as it relates to the Donald Trump being elected to office, the number one objective to the individuals who not only run the United States of America but the planet is the dominance of white supremacy. I don't care who's in office, whoever they pick, be they white or black, be they Donald Trump or Obama, is to maintain the status quo, to make sure that white interests, not only white American interests, but white European interests, is dominant throughout the globe, that they dominate the natural resources of the planet Earth, that I don't care whatever government that they go to, that they have to make certain that whatever they want to occur. So the individuals who put Donald Trump in office and supported him, make certain that, he got elected to office, that's the number one priority. And they want the control of the Earth's resources, food and mineral wealth. Be it gold, diamonds, ruby, oil, et cetera, et cetera. So above all, we can squabble about homosexual rights, about gay marriage. We can talk about, things, other topics such as that, abortion, pro-abortion, anti-abortion, but they want to maintain control of the planet Earth resources, and natural resources. That's their priority, number one priority.
Well, this oligarchy that currently exists, it really, in a true sense, doesn't matter who's there, because there's certain protocols they're going to follow, irrespective, and the little few things that they personally, that may be a part of their agenda, that inner circle, then that's something different. But obviously, he's following the wishes of people that run things, and that he's allowed to be on Broadway, which is his real intent. I don't think that he ever really thought he could beat Jeb Bush and so many other seasoned veterans at this. But he's in there in any event, and the fact is that he's there to stay. He's surrounded himself with a vice president who understands state power, the government. He knows it well. Vice President Pence. Consequently, you're talking about a situation where he's going to call the shots behind the scenes and allow him to do what he does. And like I said, right now, obviously, it's people that do not respect the rule of law, and they are put into these cabinet positions, and they're going to destroy certain things that you've seen in existence the last 100 years.
Right.
So whether it's public education, whether it's voting, voter suppression, and different things that they're going to codify, you're going to see just the rule of law going out the window.
All right. Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Quick question or comment?
Hotep Brothers, peace, calling from Harlem.
All right. Quick question or comment?
Great. Couple of quick things. You were talking about, I think, was it Sessions that made that comment about the KKK, saying that the only thing he didn't like about them was
Marijuana, yes.
Marijuana?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that, personally, my feeling is that you all left out police in America. I mean, because as far as I'm concerned, police, they function like the Ku Klux Klan in terms of how they relate to black people. And I think if you really tallied up the number over the last 100 years, I would be willing to bet that more black people have been murdered by cops than the Ku Klux Klan, number one. And I just wanted to ask you guys a couple of quick questions. Number one, how do you all feel about, because I know last weekend they said 24 people were shot in Chicago, just over one weekend. How do you all feel about Trump? He's threatening to send in national troops to Chicago. Not that that's going to do anything as far as jobs. It's not going to get to the root cause of violence. And number two, how do you all feel about the position of police commissioner being an elected position? Because I think that that's a position that's so crucial to this city that people should have the right to vote for the police commissioner, or at least it certainly should be a position that some sort of council should have to approve. I'll take my answer off the air. Thanks. Peace, brother.
All right. Okay. Thanks for your question. First question again was, Noel, what was it?
Was about the death rate in Chicago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, for me, I don't think that the response that Donald Trump has given is one that will really address the issue, as you stated, because you really answered the question yourself. The issues aren't a law enforcement issue when we talk about the root of the problem. So the response of an aggressive law enforcement attack on the city of Chicago is not going to resolve or solve that particular issue. Did any of you want to comment on that as well?
Yeah, I'll just say that it does overspill in the law enforcement, but that's not the root cause. And so I would say that he didn't say that it was actually the National Guard. He said, we're coming in. Now, I don't know what that suggests, whether he's talking about federal soldiers or whether he's talking about law enforcement, whether he's going to bolster the Chicago Police Department. I'm not sure what he means when he says it, but if he's going to use the instruments of government against so-called gang leaders, then they're going to be in a world of trouble if he does that. And so we need to be mindful of that. And I think his second question was...
I wanted to comment on the having the police commissioner elected. In and of itself, it seems like a good idea, but we don't, I'm talking about the African American community, we don't do a good job in elected mayors. Look at the mayor that we have here. Prior to this one, we had de Blasio. Prior to de Blasio, Bloomberg. Prior to Bloomberg, we had Giuliani. It's the model for our community as it relates to the protection of our community was the Black Panther Party, bar none. We need to police our own community. And, normally I would suggest that it would be a good idea if African Americans had a very strong political party. Then I would say, yes, the police commission and everybody else should be chosen by the people.
Right.
I just say be careful what you wish for. Just remember, right now, as it currently exists, if the protests were high enough and de Blasio felt pressured, he would get rid of the present police commissioner in a minute because he's running again. That's why you just heard him today talking about low-income housing. Here he's been in office now almost 4 years, and he's been taking care of rich people just like the Bloomberg administration, but now he's talking about something else. If you elect a police commissioner, just remember, for those 4 years, he is power incarnate. Just remember that now. If you elect him, you're talking about 4 years where you can't do nothing to remove him. And he can inflict a lot of damage and destabilize the black community if he's elected. But with the mayor there, you can at least appeal in some way or put pressure on the mayor to have him removed. But it's really not the police commissioner, it's their policies. So, and all those things exist with the mayor. So the thing is, not the police commissioner as much, it's the mayor. And that's who we need to put pressure on.
Okay. All right, next caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Quick question or comment?
Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air.
Yes, this is a comment. I mean, yes, a comment I'd like to make.
Where you calling from?
New York.
Okay, go ahead.
New York City.
Go ahead.
Yes, I have observed that we are focusing on Donald Trump, which is the anaconda, but we are not focusing on his puppet master, which is the scorpion, which poisons the mind of the people. I feel that we are all collectively marching and doing all the things that we should do to try to let people know that these are all wrong things, but they don't care, and they never cared, and they never will care. Nothing has changed. If you look at the Roman Empire, you had the centurions who did what they wanted to do and did not get punished for it. So what I'm saying is that this is the spiritual aspect. We are dealing with the devil himself. And if we look into the Bible, we will see the prophecy is starting to fulfill itself. It's madness. We as good men are trying to say, how is it that you can't believe your own eyes? As Richard Pryor would say, who you going to believe, me or your lying-ass eyes? And this is what's happening. We see videos of people being struck down. We see injustice, but there's nothing. No one goes to jail for this injustice. So the people are saying to themselves, then who are we to believe in? Because there is no justice for anyone.
All right, caller. Thank you for your call. Next caller. Welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Quick question or comment?
Hello?
Yeah. Where you calling from, caller?
I'm calling from New York.
Okay. Quick question or comment?
I got a little statement. The suits that you wearing, you bought them, right?
Okay.
Just answer me the suits. Okay, you can do what you want to do with your suits, right?
Go ahead.
Okay, now, the white man bought us. Our brothers sold us out. The Africans. Now, they sold us out, and a man bought us. He can do what he wants to do with us. Now, who's the most guilty? The man that sold us or the man that bought us out?
Okay. All right, caller. Thank you for your call.
Anybody that enslaved our people, are the guilty party.
You want to cut them
No.
off.
I got your point. You said I'm not trying to cut you off, but I got your point. So we're gonna respond, and we got a lot of callers, so we want to let our other callers call. But I thank you for your call, and you can call back. And I definitely got your point.
Instead of getting into a semantical discussion, I would just say anyone that enslaved our people were definitely wrong. It is not in line with any God that we believe in. So anybody that enslaved, took babies out of their mother's arms and sold them down the river are definitely devils.
And anything that we talk about that happened at that time is not justifying the ills that are occurring today. We have to address the issues that we're dealing with now. Our people are being prosecuted, persecuted, and we have to address those issues now.
And I want to see this history of Africans selling other Africans under what was the circumstance? What was the atmosphere? You know, just like in American Indians in this country, that some of them tracked down their own brothers, but they were under an enormous amount of pressure. You know, when I look at the dungeons, the castles in Africa, most of the canyons are pointed inland. So it was no cooperation. It's not like the African chiefs or African heads of state said to Europeans, yeah, come over here. We got a lot of our brothers and sisters we want to sell. So, you know, this whole, I know you probably got that from your white teacher, you know, that was the case. But one thing I know about Europeans, they don't pay for nothing. They take. So there was no business cooperation, I don't believe, between these two entities. And that whole so-called,
transatlantic slave trade.
That has to be discussed from an Afrocentric point of view, because, I mean, it's easy for a thief to say, oh, the person sold, the person gave it to me. You know, I didn't take it, they gave it to me. So
the same way they got Manhattan Island?
Exactly. So I'm not saying none of that occurred, but I think you put far too much emphasis, and I would definitely like to know the circumstances by which that particular transaction occurred, because I know right here in America, I know the American Indians didn't say, yeah, come over to this country. We want to fight our brother, fellow Indians and give you their land. Even though some of that did occur, I understand the circumstances and the amount of pressure. It's either you work with me or we going to kill you. Right. We'll give him the guns and he can fight and kill you. So, brother, don't get it twisted, about history.
And it's always somebody else telling our story.
And the history of European, because they did this all over the planet. Right, Australia, Africa, Latin America, et cetera, et cetera. These people weren't calling for, begging Europeans to come to their country and their land so they can do some devious, diabolical transaction with them. They, so brother, don't get it twisted. Pick up a book.
Next caller, welcome to Community Cop. Where you calling from? Quick question or comment?
Brooklyn.
All right, quick question or comment.
Noel once called me Nat, and I'm going to just stick with that. But, I don't mean to comment on another brother. That's the way he's thinking. But my father used to say, now what does that have to do with the price of eggs? Because we in a situation now. We could keep looking back and we could keep trying to point fingers. But the thing is, it's about time for us to make a fist. We had a time where the Black Panthers organized, and I believe this government put together schools to disorganize, disrupt, and destroy anything that we can build. They're focusing on other people now, and it's time for us to come up with a new solution to this problem. While the pressure might be slightly distracted away from us. Thank you, brothers.
All right, thank you for your call. And for some reason, they always want to criminalize the victim. Somehow we always want to make the people who are, and when I say we, I don't mean us collectively, but sometimes they always want to criminalize the victim. We are being persecuted, prosecuted by white supremacy throughout the globe. And now we're going to turn the eyes to ourselves and hold ourselves accountable? I think we have to really revisit how we respond and how we view the attack that's occurring and has occurred. And we're talking about over centuries to African people.
Just want to say earlier, the person who asked what I'll take on the Charles Oakley situation, I'll just say briefly that this is a classic situation of a billionaire going at it with the millionaire, and you can see who lost. The millionaire. The billionaires always win. That's his playpen, and he can say who comes in and who comes out and how you're going to act while you're there. And certainly there's no video footage to prove that Oakley said anything bad. But look at how he responded days after by showcasing all these black players. So it's fairly obvious what he was doing. And by the way, when you see guys like Tom Brady go to the White House under Bush 43, but then refuse to go to the White House after the New England Patriots win under President Obama, now he's going again under Donald Trump. What does that show you? To those who Patriot fans that love Tom Brady and his wife so much, it just shows you how he'll smack the face of a black president, but he respects that office when a white person is in there.
And the brother who raised the issue that nothing has changed, nothing has changed, in this country as it relates to oppression, exploitation, the disenfranchisement of the African-American community in entertainment, economics, education, law, labor, war, et cetera, et cetera. It's cosmetic changes, but it's been some consistencies. Nixon, his chief of staff, I think it was, came not too long ago. Ehrlichman said that Nixon commenced a war against blacks. We know about COINTELPRO. We know about the what's the papers that they have that specifically talk about
the Panama Papers?
The Pentagon.
No, there's another papers. I can't get it right now. So, yeah, I mean, brother, you were 100% correct in your analysis, but what has to change is that our community has to come together and we have to organize ourselves because the attack against us in entertainment, in education, in economics, in labor, in law, in war, et cetera, is an organized attack. So the only way for us to be successful and be victorious is if we organize ourselves. And our failure to do that, is part and parcel of the reason why there's a continuation of this.
Okay. All right. Well, we're running out of time, so we're going to have our closing comments by our panel. Right. Noel?
All right. Little more, I love you. And don't forget, we like to welcome our Free Speech TV audience. Although this is a recorded program, you can catch us on Facebook on Community Cop and ask any questions or raise any comments that you may have for us, and we'll answer that at a previous program.
I'll be speaking at African Echoes in New Jersey on the 26th. That's Sunday, the Sunday after next. Certainly, we'll be talking about the history of civil rights and white supremacy. Straight Black Pride every Thursday. Blog Talk Saturdays. Blog Talk at 10:30. The Million Women's Movement, and Black Man, Black Woman, Protect the Black Child.
And all of our free speech audience members, remember the show airs at 5 o'clock every Tuesday, so you can watch it online at mnn.org, and you can still make your comments and call up and be a part of our actual panel on every Tuesday at 5 o'clock. Thanks for watching.
No, we got time.
Okay. And remember that, as Noel stated, you can get us on Facebook as well and leave some comments. And we'll try to view all of the comments that are written, and we'll discuss them on the live show.
And for those who might not caught the program last week or a couple of weeks ago, we've been given an opportunity to expand our program to free speech television. Unfortunately, they don't catch it live, as Julian just stated. So that's why some of you who may be watching for the first time in a couple of weeks, we welcome that audience to the program, and hopefully we'll have some dialogue with the viewers. We'd love to hear from you.
Black man, accept your own and be yourself.
And listen, everybody, again, thanks for watching. Nat, Veronica, Kit, our staff in the back, you guys are doing a phenomenal job. We thank you. Harper family, Leader family, Graves family, Father Lucas, look to see you next week.
Yes, sir, Father.
Guys,
We
keep
love
watching.
you, Father.
All right. Community Cop.
Say it loud, brothers and sisters.
We deserve.